Hi and welcome to another Carpenter Tutoring tutorial. I'm Amy and today we're going to talk about how to do addition with negative numbers using a visual method. Whenever we're adding together values, we always have a mathematical equation or expression that we can refer to. So let's take a look at an example. Let's say we had something like 3 plus 1. In terms of using a visual method, the first number in my addition problem is always my starting place. This is the place on the number line where I'll begin my work. Next, the sign of my second number tells me what direction I'm going to make my jumps in. That sign can either be positive or negative. If the sign is positive, it tells us that our jumps are going to move to the right. But if the sign is negative, it tells us that our jumps will move to the left. And then finally, the second number tells me how many jumps to take. So if we're thinking about completing a problem like 3 plus 1 on the number line, we can start at our first value, 3, determine what direction to move based on the sign of our second value. Well, our second value is positive 1, so that tells me I'll be moving to the right. And lastly, I can determine the number of jumps that I have to take from the second value. Our second value is 1, so that tells me to take 1 jump to the right. I end up at 4, so that tells me that 3 plus 1 must equal 4. Now that we've talked about how to use a number line to complete addition problems in general, let's see how it can help us out with addition problems that involve negative numbers. Let's first consider 2 plus negative 3. Again, the first value, 2, tells me my starting point, so I'll begin at 2 on the number line. The sign of my second value tells me the direction that I'm going to move. Our sign for the second value is negative. That negative tells me that I'm going to move to the left. And lastly, the number of our second value tells us how many jumps to take. We have a number of 3, so that tells me to take 1, 2, 3 jumps to the left. That gets me to the value of negative 1. So that tells me that 2 plus negative 3 must be negative 1. Let's take a look at what happens when we have two negative numbers together. Let's try negative 3 plus negative 2. Again, our first value tells us where to begin on the number line. So I'll start at negative 3. The sign of our second value tells us what direction to move in. We have a negative second value, so that means I'll have to move to the left. Lastly, I use the number of my second value to determine how many jumps to take. Our number is 2, so that means I have to take 2 jumps to the left. This ends me at the value negative 5, so that tells me that negative 3 plus negative 2 must equal negative 5. Now you can always draw a number line where you're asked to do addition problems with negative numbers. It can take a little bit of time to create though, and sometimes there are values that we have to add together that aren't so easy to show on a number line, like fractions or decimals. For that reason, I recommend using this method when you're learning about adding negative numbers together. But take a look out for patterns that you might be able to use to help you recognize the sum of these numbers without having to use a visual representation. So in other words, using this visual method is kind of like using the training wheels on a bike. You can use it to learn the steps and learn the skill, but once you get better at it and start getting the feel for it, you might find that you don't need that visualization anymore. Well, I hope this has been a helpful way to at least start thinking about your negative numbers or strengthen your confidence adding them together. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know down below. Thanks so much for spending part of your day with me. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and I'll catch you next time.